core thing that I've learned is that most of us grow up not really knowing who we truly are, and we are taught who to be. And what I discovered later in life through various interactions was that I wasn't truly who I thought I was, and only in the last 10 years have I allowed myself to discover my truth.
So let's welcome Mark Worthington to the show. Hi, Mark.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to be on your show. I'm really privileged to be here.
We usually take to our ideas of allow ourselves to so many places. So I wanted to ask you, when you hear the expression allow yourself, where does your mind go?
Look, I think it's a really core thing that I've learned is that most of us grow up not really knowing who we truly are. And we are taught who to be. And what I discovered later in life through various interactions was that I wasn't truly who I thought I was. And only in the last 10 years have I allowed myself to discover my truth. It's the word that matters most to me in life is truth. And the truth is that we are far more than any of us give ourselves credit for being. Way, way beyond what we think we are. Yet we don't allow ourselves to be that simply because we don't know that. And I've had the benefit of being, let's say, taught and shown who humanity is and who I am. And that's allowed me to be more of myself, much more. And I know there's more to come, but, it's been an incredible journey.
So when I'm hearing you to say is that we are born and then people around us teach us who we are, and we believe that what they're saying is true. When we are children or adolescents, we don't stop and think, who are we? We just get things as they are, and this is what the world is until we get to a certain age that is, hello, what's mine, what's not mine, who am I? I don't know what's mine and what's not mine. That I think that's the adolescence as a teenager, when we start really questioning what's ours and what's not. When does it happen to you?
Well, it happened to me much later in life, but my belief is that when we are born, we need to survive. We're very fragile, and we're born into a family. And we don't really, in most families, not all, we are not taught to express ourselves as we are. We are kind of forced to fit in, and we realize, we start to understand that our survival is essentially predicated on us fitting into the tribe. We need to get fed, we need to get cared for. So we become compliant with the rules of the tribe, of the family, of the community, and then we're immersed in it. And we all become conditioned by the beliefs and by the way it is around here. And we all want to be loved. This is the core thing about human beings. We all want to be loved. We all want to survive as well, but we all want to be loved, and we all want to love. And to be loved, we start to realize that the way to be loved, we think, is to be, firstly, successful in the eyes of the tribe, and secondly, not to fail. Because if you fail and someone stops loving you, essentially you could die. As a child, that's the subliminal connection that we all have inside our brains. That's where we go to. So as we get older, we become more and more immersed in this process of being what others think we are, and we think we are. We don't really, we abandon what's possible. We become what we're told to be. And for me, I didn't start to see the truth until I was in my 50s, until I'd had a series of major disruptions in my life that caused me a lot of pain. And I started to turn to face that pain because I really didn't understand why I had been taught to be all these things. And I was very diligently, like a lot of listeners, going through life, complying with all the rules of the family, the tribe, the community, working very hard. Yet I kept having these disasters. Things would go wrong. And my life was a bit of a roller coaster. I'd have good and then I'd have bad. And then in my 50s, after 2 divorces, the pain got so intense that I started to face it. And that's when everything opened up for me. Nothing to do with anything I kind of asked for. I just started to have metaphysical experiences that were beyond anything I understood. It was beyond my comprehension, and I didn't know what it was. All of a sudden, I woke up in the middle of the night, and there's a giant angel standing in front of my bed, green and yellow. I subsequently found out it was Archangel Michael. Then I started having all these interactions with spirits, which I'd never had in my life. And then they came to me and basically said, we're here to teach you about yourself, about your broader truths, and about the truths of being a human and what it means to be on this planet. And so I embraced that. I quit my job and I started to learn with these beings, and they teach me every week, basically. I've had like 400 plus sessions with them now, and they've taught me a lot about myself, a lot about my past, and even talked about my future. Like, it's extraordinary experience. But, I suppose to answer your question, it was, for most of my life, I lived in the box that other people created for me. I was compressed into this box of, this is who you are, be that. It was only the implosion within the box that made me look outside the box and go, well, actually, I'm far more than I ever thought I was. But I had the luxury of having these, infinite mentors who knew everything, who taught me so much. And they asked me to put it into books, which is why I've written 4 books so far with their teachings in the books. And
that's very interesting, because it happens when things start falling, right? And we think then when our life starts to fall apart, that things will break, like they will be destroyed. And really, it's like listening to your stories, like things got a transformation and fell into different places. I call it in Spanish, todo se acomoda. Everything falls into place, no? Yeah. And it's like, when we think things are getting the disaster and the roller coaster you're talking about, it's like when your mind gets a crack and you start allowing your light to come in. Because you talk about those 3 o'clock in the morning metaphysicals and angels coming to you, but there's a lot of people that freak out when that happens, that they close themselves even more because they are very afraid. So one of the blessings that you had, according to what you're telling us, is that you allow yourself to listen, and you allow yourself to have the conversations with these angels and metaphysical, that they were like, they are your friends, they are not your enemies, they come here to teach you. And once they say, we are here to teach you, you listen, you're allowed to listen yourself, and you're allowed to open yourself to the lessons that they have here to teach you.
And I think for the most part of my life, I lived with the kind of belief that every time something bad happened, I should dust myself off and get back on the horse and try again. But I was trying again from the same level of awareness that I'd always had, which meant things were going to go wrong again because I hadn't fundamentally shifted. And I didn't realize that, but what I'd learned through this whole process with the metaphysical beings, and I'm talking about, the highest of the high here, not dead grandmother, I'm talking about archangels and, those sorts of beings. They taught me the process of learning from every experience in life, because that's essentially why we're here, believe it or not. We have been manifested by our souls to be here. The soul is choosing to be here, not Mark. Mark is just the manifestation. The soul is here to learn and have certain experiences. In my case, it was here to have a multitude of experiences. And so things were essentially wrecked for Mark to go through the pain so that Mark could learn with the soul. It's a sort of a combined effort. But unfortunately, human beings are not very good at learning in a place of happiness. We don't see the need to change when we're happy. We can, but we don't. So we're generally only jettisoned into change when something very painful occurs. And in my case, that was multitudes of things like relationship breakdowns, divorces, loss of money, loss of jobs, loss of health. I had an incredible muscle disorder that lasted 35 years. That was supposed to kill me. The doctor said it would kill me because my whole body was going into muscle cramp gradually and my heart would eventually stop. Well, it didn't, because the spirits taught me how to heal it. And they taught me how to heal cancer. So I did that. And I'm not the first to do that. But it was a totally new way of looking at me. I'm just not a human being who's here having a life and wanting to accumulate assets and have fun. I'm essentially here at the behest of my soul, if you want to say God, the universe, to increase my self-awareness. If you look at the word evolution and reverse the first four letters, you get love. And that is essentially why we're here. Souls are agreed to come to earth to learn to be pure love on the earth plane in a place of density. And there are challenges and experiences and karma they need to face to actually come back to the purity of love that they are. And that can be very painful for the human being who has to endure the problems, like I did. But now when I have a problem, I look at it and I go, wow, okay, what is my soul wanting us to learn in this situation? And once I learn the lesson and turn it into a higher consciousness, energetically I shift and it doesn't happen again. Like, I've learned now that bad things only happen to teach you higher consciousness. And once you learn the lesson, the soul no longer needs to put you through that challenge. Whether it's in relationships or what, personal experiences, once you learn the lesson, your consciousness no longer needs to be kicked into higher awareness. You don't need it.
It's very interesting what you're saying, because it's like your soul is inside you, right? That's let's call it like that. It's your soul. And when you are in your body and with low consciousness and low awareness, it's like the soul starting to scream, here I am, look at me. And if you don't look at me, I will hit you and I will punish. I will hit you and you will go through different things to see, here I am. Hello, listen to me. And what you say about once you learn the lesson, so you don't have to go again, your soul is there, your awareness. It's like, and if you don't learn the lesson, and if you don't want to listen of what is happening, and you don't stop to think, what's my lesson? It will come harder, and it will come even harder until, okay, when are you planning to listen to me? So comes back. And one of the things, tell me if that happens to you too, that after you learn the lesson, it's like the soul come and test you and put you in the same situation to see, did you learn the lesson? You know, it's like, are you going to change your action, or you're going to fall again to the same mistake you did before?
Yes. I find there's a three-stage process that I go through. One is understanding. So something will happen and then I'll think, well, what should I have learned here? Correct, as you say, then you go into this phase of what I call knowing. So it's understanding to knowing. Knowing means you're being tested in that experience. And the third phase is becoming, because what happens is everything ultimately is energy. So as you learn and increase your self-awareness, and then you're tested through it, you then go into phase 3, which is around your energy shifts. Now, your energy is changed by the soul. It's not changed by the mind. The mind can't change the energy of the body or the soul. So the soul alters your energetic field, if you want to call it that, and the energy in your body.
Now, your vibration, what usually it's called, right? Your vibration?
It's called vibration, yes. And so, or frequency, you could use either word. But as your energy or frequency changes, so the way you interact with the universe changes, because it no longer needs to clean your energy because it's clean. And so you start receiving positive experiences rather than negative experiences. People talk about manifestation. Well, manifestation is only possible using the heart once you remove the obstacles to the manifestation, which is the negative energy that's caught around you. So, when one of the challenges of being human is when you are born with amnesia for the most part. Your soul decides, we're going to go down there, we're going to have these 3 core lessons we're going to learn in this life. And we're going to remove this set of karma, because karma is real. We go down to earth and then bingo, we're born and we forget. We're intentionally, our memories of the other side for most people, not all, some people are gifted to have that memory, but you forget, well, I don't know why I'm here, and then off you go with your life and you screw up. And what happens is when you get too far off I call it the divine path, which is where your soul secretly wants you to go, it'll keep edging you back onto the field. Sometimes that's a disaster will occur. Sometimes you'll say you're too far away from your divine plan, you lose your job and you think, what have I done wrong? Well, you've done nothing wrong. The soul has engineered a redirection, a divine redirection for you to come back closer to where you are. And the same thing happens in romantic relationships. Romantic relationships are like learning experience on steroids, because you're learning with somebody else directly. And every now and then a relationship will end. Well, sometimes it's meant to end because you're not meant to be there anymore. You're meant to be shunted back over here to have another experience. But we beat ourselves up because we lost our job, because we ended that relationship, unbeknownst to us, because we're only thinking in a human context about that was painful. I should avoid pain. I'm a failure. Because we're not thinking everything in life truly is physical and metaphysical. The two go hand in hand. One actually manifests the other. Yet as a race, we've generally forgotten that we are metaphysical. Yet love is metaphysical. So we've become very narrow-minded, very ignorant, to be honest, about the truth of who and what we are. And therefore, we can't help but have a narrow-minded approach to life. And therefore, things go wrong because we don't think in that context. When things go wrong for me now, I love it. I go, oh, okay, what am I meant to learn here? What's that feeling? And you learn to connect every day, every minute to your feelings, because feelings is truly where you'll find the truth. And the truth comes out of understanding what belief structures are driving what's in your feelings. One of the things we've forgotten is how to feel. And I'm putting men mainly in this category, where you think something and do it. And we think because we're thinking with our minds. Our egos are going, right.
But that's intentional. I think that's how the culture in the past, not as much as today, because there is much more awareness today, but I think they taught us to use our left brain all the time, math and structure and language. And there was a saying, because you and me are more or less of the same age. I'm 63. You are?
64.
54.
64.
64, so we're in the same age. So we grew up with what you see is what you get. Remember, that was the saying that was implanted in our head. What you see is what you get. And feelings you don't see, just you feel. You don't see. You see the manifestation after, but you are And there was another way of thinking that when you start working, you work here and leave your house at home, and you leave your problems at home. It's like you are completely different, mind from heart. That's at least how I was educated. No, and probably happened to you, and that's one of my questions. When you were a kid, did you also feel the metaphysical and for me, for example, I was bullied that I was crazy, that I was seeing things, that I have an extreme imagination, that I talk to my friends and I talk to the trees and to my invisible friends, because that's the way I used to play. But I was the crazy one. Now, be careful, because but so I had, as a child, as you say, to fit in, to be loved, to be part of it, I had to close it completely. And did it happen to you?
Well, not as much as you. When I was young, I had a real fascination with the metaphysical. I used to read lots of books about ghosts, and I used to go and walk around cemeteries. So I had this inherent desire to understand life and death, but I didn't, and I did have the odd experience, but they were very limited. So it was only in my I think I was 53 when all of a sudden I had this angelic experience, and then I had all these experiences with spirits. Now I see them every day. They talk to me. I've had experiences, like I could write multiple books about the experiences I've had. But that was, it opened up for me in the pain of I believe what happened was I went through so much pain in my life at one point, where I lost my job and lost my wife and lost, therefore, access to children. I lost wealth. And I went into this it was an aggregation of pain. And I went into this process of facing my pain. I started seeing psychologists, mentors, and I think the universe realized I was approaching this with all authenticity and with complete openness, and it rewarded me with the truth. And, I just am really grateful that came along, even though what I've been through, for many people, they don't believe it. They're very skeptical. But, it's my truth, and everyone has the right to choose what they believe. But
I think once we allow ourselves to open the stories in others, it's like we are opening ourselves to let that happen to us too, without fear. So what I see, what I'm listening in you I want you to tell us about a little bit about the truth about love, the book you wrote, but is this sharing of allowing the metaphysical come. And people say, "Oh, that happened to me, but I closed it because I was afraid of where I was going." But if you trust and you allow, this is all the magical that happen around. No, you say, then you can say, miracles happen every day, and small miracles and big miracles is because you allow the magic to happen. And at 3:00 at night, that is when usually people this age, right, especially women, wake up at 3:00 in the morning. And all the time I say, stop fighting, because listen, God is whispering, or the universe is whispering, or listen, allow yourself to listen.
It happens at that hour of the day because the mind is shut down. And what we all do is, we've all been taught that, for most of us, unless you've got a very open-minded family, you're basically taught, there's we don't know whether it's life. Most people are very skeptical. Is there life after death? Is there such a thing as a ghost or a spirit? Are there beings from other parts of the universe? All these things are fundamental questions of humanity that we've been taught to block. So we also have this fear of those things, therefore, because, even Hollywood projects movies onto us that show that spirits kill us and chase us and, all these things. Now, I've had thousands of interactions with spirits, and 99.9% of them have been incredibly positive and loving, far more positive than I've experienced in on the earth plane, because they are largely just beings of light and love, and they're here to help me. As long as, they're ready, waiting to help people if people open and allow it in. That's all it takes, is to ask. That's it. You ask, and they'll come and they'll show you. And I was fortunate. I awoke, but I was, 53. I wasn't like you. You were quite young. And a lot of people are born with the natural high vibration.
No, I had to close it completely. I opened it after the age of 35, even almost 40. I realized that I'm not the one that is wrong, okay? Because I was always wrong, the one making problems, and I'm not the one that is doing the wrong. So I start opening myself again, and yes, I can tell you that at the age of in my 40s is when I lost everything. Well, I lost my business, I divorced, I was blamed for something that I didn't do, so I went to court. My father passed away, my mom passed away, an electric ball fell into me, but it was exactly what you said, and it made a lot of sense for me to say that it's kick back for your path, because you're going too far. Okay, you learn what you need to learn, but you're going away from your path. You're leaving somebody else's path. So, hello. If you didn't understand what I was trying to say, I will take everything so you will understand that that's not your path.
The universe is largely trying to teach you what you are not, so that it can then show you what you are.
Interesting.
Now, to do that, it has to destroy your attachments and the things that validate your ego. And that's what it will do, depending on the soul's journey in this life. Some people might have minor attachments destroyed. Some people are here to expand significantly, and they'll have many, many attachments destroyed. Like I did, like you have gone through the same thing, because you were meant to go to a much higher level of consciousness in your life, so you could be more the truth of you, the true love, right? We're all basically true love. So, that's what goes on. So the universe only gives you what you're ready to confront. So it won't give you something beyond your level of possibility. So in my case, I went through a whole lot of pain, but the irony of it is the soul wrecked my life, but the soul then got me through the pain. So it's the savior as well as the problem creator, because it ultimately wanted me to work with it to come through to a higher level of consciousness. And so I did. And that's why you've got to look at this whole thing around, well, if anything goes wrong in life, it's not a punishment. And for most part, one of the things I've done with my spirit guides is that I've gone back through over 100 of my past lives and analysed them, seen them. They've told me all about the past life, what happened, and then I have to understand the lessons that I should learn. Then once I learn the lessons and seek forgiveness, then they release the energy field from my form. And much of what people are doing is they're here to rectify or rebalance the karma that they've come into this life holding. Now, the soul is what's holding the karma on the earth plane, not you, not me. I came into this world with heaps of karmic energy around me, but Mark didn't create any of it. It was all created in past lives by other versions of my soul. I've been the hero, if you like, because I've stepped into it all and progressively cleared it. Now, if I hadn't, I would have suffered a lot of negative pain. But at the end of the day, I originally used to sort of blame myself for having all these karmic kind of ways of being or negative energies. But in fact, I had nothing to do with their creation. I've been the one who's been helping to clear it. So it's, it's the interesting thing about karma, and most people don't sort of have heard the word karma and they question whether it truly exists. It does exist. And every time we die, we go back to our version of heaven and we leave our karmic field on the earth. And when we come back for the next life, we pick it up. And the soul determines which levels of the karma are to be addressed in this life. And that can be a really uncomfortable experience. But karma is now able to be reversed quite easily. It used to be kinetic. So say if you killed someone, you had to be killed to release your karma. You don't now. Awareness of the actual karmic energy and let's call it forgiveness and gratitude for the learning is enough to release the karma. And so things are shifting on the earth, and that's something that's available to people if they wish to pursue it. It's not easy to do. I was lucky to have some very good guides to help me do that, but it's possible.
Want to go back to the universe don't give you your soul what you're not ready to receive, what you're not ready to heal, no? That you said it's like people that fear it is they are not ready. So it's like the universe tests your soul. Are you ready? Are you ready to do it? No? In order to, until you go through something and say, okay, I'm ready now, whatever. And usually I called it for me like a God put me on my knees, no? That it's, now what? Okay, I've done this, I want this, and nothing worked. Now what? Right? Is when then you start listening to different signals that you catch, no, and that you can hear hundreds of times a song, but after it happened to me at least, is that when I was at that stage, it was a song of Cher. You haven't seen the last of me, that brought me back. No, it's like, you haven't seen the last of me. Okay, you won't say who I am and what I'm doing, and I'm here on my knees. I will take my power back, and I will show you who I am, not what you say I am. I will show you who I am. So it's that little signals that, okay, you call it that you can see the angels, but sometimes I'm asking you, it comes in messages, in flashes, that you just are guided, not this way. It's just getting your path.
Yeah, and I think for me it was learning to not think. I learned to, let's call it initially, meditate. I learned to connect to my soul every day. And now it's every minute of the day. I used to sit intentionally for half an hour a day to sort of connect. And I'd always ask the question, what would you have me know today? That was my question. And initially it would take maybe sometimes a day or two for the answers to come through. Now it's instant, like it's within 20 seconds. I'll get.
Yeah, it's practice. Also, it's the practice. It's the practice.
And often it'll come through in feelings.
In feelings? Mm-hmm.
You just know something all of a sudden, and you know something about yourself. I would say that I would change something around my beliefs every day. I would change something major. Every day something comes through because my soul knows that I'm receptive to changing every day. But I originally had to go back through every feeling and find the belief structure behind the feeling. What do I believe here? Because that belief might have been planted there by someone else or something else or by past lives. And I found that the beliefs needed to be cleansed, in effect, erased, and then replaced with a positive belief structure. So
I like your expression that, because sometimes people say, but how do you do it? Or how do you know? And you just say, I just know. That's it. I just know. That's my truth. I just know the information came. And you don't need to explain anything because you just know. It's like, the other day I was talking to somebody also that is in the metaphysical, works with constellations. And she was telling me that we are taught that we have 5 senses. Yeah. And the truth is that we have at least 13, right? Senses. That is like our sex sense, senses our guts, yeah, the intuition that we call, but we have so much more than that, what we feel, what we hear, what we see, that that are natural of capturing the energy. So we don't need to explain to anybody, not even to ourselves, but because at the beginning I'm asking you, it comes like doubt. Is doubt coming with it, or
No, you lose the sense of doubt, because look, one of the things the spirits have told me is that the worst thing I can ever do is think, because thinking is coloured by conditioned belief structures. I have to stop thinking. My brain is no longer an originator of thoughts. It's now like a radio. It's a receiver. And every thought, you want to call it a thought, every message I project comes from my soul, because my soul actually, after a period of time of me stopping thinking, it repatterned my brain so that it's now effectively just a receiver. And people, if you really want to find the truth of yourself, you need to get out of the thinking thing and get into the feeling and get into the receiving. And that sounds crazy, but thinking really is your greatest enemy on the pathway to the truth, because it's so distorted. It really, really is. And the brain's role, or the mind's role, changes from that of originator of beliefs to the assistant to the soul. It's the interpreter, and it helps organize, but that's it. It sets intention, and that's it. Everything else is the soul. You start to live from the soul energy almost completely. And the mind just
it's
becomes like a PA.
what you're saying is you're the medium, you're getting the information and then coming it up, bringing it out. It's just, you're just the receiver that transmits the information, and your brain is just to process and learn how to transmit it in this plane. Is that what you're saying?
It's the organizer. The brain is like a fantastic assistant who helps organize the life. The soul knows what you want to do. It knows what your heart's desire is. It knows where you should go. And the brain's capacity, the mind's role is to simply implement. Okay, you tell me what to do, I'll go and do it. Right, okay, right, yeah. Okay, that's what we're doing today. That's what my heart wants me to do. And the brain, you still need the body and you still need the mind to organize, but it's not the originator of the direction or the strategy or the thought. It's no longer the intelligence. You know, one of the things in this world is we are taught to be intellectual. We pay people to be intellectually superior. Well, intelligence in the soul is far more, the soul has access to infinite intelligence. So if you take Albert Einstein, his IQ was estimated to be 215. And that's one of the smartest people that ever walked upon the planet. The soul has access to infinite intelligence. That's infinity versus 215. So that's what's available to any human being that wants to access the infinite field of wisdom. And you can do this. And the soul already is connected to it. You just have to allow it to connect on your behalf. And then it will tell you where you're supposed to go, what you're meant to do, and what you actually love. You know, like most of us have shut the soul down. We've shut our hearts down and we think, because the thinking is what gets paid.
So we don't allow it, huh? So that's the word, you don't allow it to come in. Does it happen to you at the beginning, at least, that when you were a receiver and you start talking, you don't even remember what you said or how you help?
Yeah, you become, sometimes you don't really know what's coming out of your mouth until it's out, because it's coming from a source that's not originating within your head. And it's a very interesting experience to get used to. And it's no different to, you know, say a psychic channeler, they give themselves to the spirits. And they talk, but the spirits have taken control of their body and their brain, and they actually don't know what's coming out of their mouth. And this is akin to that. You start to become the modem, if you like, the light speaks through you, and you don't know necessarily. It's about living in the moment. You hear people say, forget the past, forget the future, live for the now. And that, you find you need to prepare less for things because you'll just know in the moment what to say and how to interact with someone. And you might just say something because intuitively you feel the person needs to hear this. And they do, and they go, wow, that's changed my life. And you go, yeah, I knew I had to say it, but, it's up to them to receive and interpret.
Yes, that reminds me in conversations that I had with friends that they tell me or I tell them, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but something has to do with it. That we don't know why we're telling this story, or we don't know why we're telling some advice or something to a friend, and it's like they will understand later why did we say what we said, and we had no idea. So it's like the soul talking through us, right?
Well, the souls are talking to each other all the time. This is the thing we realize, but we are living on two levels. We're in the metaphysical and the physical. So your soul is always in connection with other souls. And we may not even know what's going on there. We almost certainly don't. Until you become connected to your soul, you don't know what the soul's kind of thinking or not thinking, what it's feeling. But, when you walk into a room and you stand opposite someone and you sort of feel their energy, what's happening is your souls are connecting. And the soul knows what the other soul's, wanting to hear or needs to hear. And the more attuned you become to this, the more you might then just say, hey, come out with something because you've been prompted to say this. Because intuitively the souls are saying, well, this person needs to understand this. Say it. And so you become, more in that light, and therefore you project light to the other person.
That's beautiful. Tell us, Mark, and how do you help people? How do you work to help people so they can connect you and reach for you?
Well, I can do various things, but so far I've written the 4 books, and I do podcasts. I do these sorts of things, but I also do social media bites every day. So, 2 to 3 minute topics of one little bit of wisdom that I've learnt. I do offer coaching to people, and I have been coaching at executive level and coaching, other people just in life coaching. But I found that for me to coach someone, they need to have already had that shift into the open-mindedness of being able to accept the metaphysical. Because what I teach is, in everything I teach, the metaphysical comes into it. There's the 2 levels. It's the physical and metaphysical, and unless you're open to the metaphysical, there's not a lot of point listening to me, because I do explain everything on the 2 levels. And that's, the more open-minded people who've already maybe had their awakening, they're ready to hear what I can help them with. If they haven't, they're better off probably with a normal psychologist or life coach, because most of those people tend to work in the mind-based area only, which is not where I play. So, I can help people in many ways. I've been quite successful in helping people who've, really reached rock bottom, who want to commit suicide, and the psychologists can't help them. But I've been able to show them that, these experiences they're having and this desperate need for, the pain they're in actually has deep purpose. And if they turn and face it and learn from it and understand that effectively the universe is saying to them, you're ready to take step to another level, then, they can start to see themselves in a more positive light. And, I've turned some people around who are literally standing on buildings ready to throw themselves off. Mm-hmm. Whereas the psychologists gave up, because the mind was, in those situations, the mind was not only the potential solution, it was the problem. It was the thing telling them to throw themselves off the building. So, until you circumvent that ego and go to some sort of higher level, you don't.
You call it, I call it flip it over.
Yeah, exactly right.
So, to the listeners, you can find and see those bites and wisdoms that Mark teaches in his social medias and in his website, mark-worthington.com. And you can start listening to those bites and to see if you can really reach and be helped by Mark, because it's a unconventional way. Let's say it's not the norm yet, because we're going there. I think that there are more people awakening, and they are not crazy anymore. They are really gifted to be able to flow in both realms, because it's not walk, it's like flow. It's like, I imagine it like floating, floating in this realm and floating in the other. And when really you are awakened and you start allowing yourself to listen, to feel, to experience this new metaphysical world, you can get you can really get far. We today, if you open to this, you can listen to a lot of different coaches, let's say, that talk about it in different wording. They use frequency, they use high vibration, they use love. Always the word love comes in, and to listen and whisper and mainly pause. No, in the meditation, a pause, because you need to open your mind, to have the crack in your mind, to be able to connect body with soul, or mind with soul, or you through the soul, how you imagine it. So it's if you would have your teenager here, what would you tell your teenager today with the knowledge that you have today? What would you advise him?
I actually have 5 children, and they're all in their early 20s. Some of them are open to what I teach, others less so. And what I've found with young people is that the young people are the ones who are mostly, a lot of these people don't carry the karma. They're people having their first lives on earth. So they are already very open to a lot of these metaphysical concepts. And they're looking for adults who can show them the way. Well, unfortunately, most adults can't show them the way. So they're looking for the truth, and the metaphysical is something they're seeking to understand. So I taught my children, certainly the ones who are more open to the metaphysical side of life, just as I've taught. Now, one of the things in this book, From Pain to Possibility, is that I have the model that I was shown by archangels to work towards multidimensionality, to become the complete self. Now, a lot of people go into a spiritual path and they honestly have no idea what's possible at the end. We'll call it the end. But they're just doing different things. They're reacting. They might be reading some books or listening to a podcast occasionally. And yes, they're on a spiritual journey. But they honestly have no idea that what awaits them if they really do this at a very advanced level is that they can enter multidimensionality, which means they can have the same consciousness they'll have as the spirits when they die and living on the earth plane. And that is possible if you do the work. Call it galactic consciousness.
Do you think that the young people have the gift today of being experience the life when they see energy and frequency everywhere? What I mean is, if they want to turn on the TV, they have a control remote that has, they know that from here there is no cable to go there. It's an invisible energy that goes from here to there. So it's easier for them to understand what's happening. They can talk on the phone, on a cell phone, and they can be wherever they want, and they have that there is a satellite energy that has the frequency of their own phone, so it's easier to perceive the concept of, because for us, I don't know, you tell me what you think is, for us to go from a landline, from a line on the phone that we have the cable, to go to landline wireless that we can walk with our phone, was science fiction at the beginning. And then we imagine that we can you imagine walking on the street talking with a phone? Or can you imagine seeing each other on the phone? Okay, but for us was dreaming. And
oh, look, I found the young people, as I said, very, very open-minded about all this. They are almost, if my children have a whole group of people around for a party, they'll all sit and talk to me about what I know. They're so fascinated by it, they want to know. So yes, they do understand the concept of frequency. The only proviso there is that sometimes they're so hooked into their phones that they are watching social media that has a negative slant or an ego-based slant, where people are just trying to project themselves in a certain way and the image becomes important, as opposed to maybe listening to things that add value to their understandings. One of the things that I was advised by my spiritual beings was these things, although they are very helpful to keep you in connection with people, the frequency they emit also does stop you down from finding your own frequency. Because you do have your own frequency. If you sleep there with that next to your head, then your frequency is sort of distorted by this. So to some extent, I never sleep with my phone next to me or even in my own room, because that gives me a break every night from frequency. And all our houses have Wi-Fi in them too, which means this is why I'm also told I need to go to nature when I meditate, because in nature is where the frequency is pure, because it's light. Nature is pure light. And that's where you'll be far more receptive to any kind of messages coming not just from your own soul, but from other beings, because it is a combination. Like, we sometimes look to higher beings for advice and for all the guidance, but the same guidance can come from within inside you. If once you get to a certain point, then you can kind of switch off almost, if you want, from spirit guides and focus in here, because you can trust your own intuition. It's all the same. It comes from the same source. There's only one source. It all comes from the same source.
Very, very interesting. While you were talking, I was thinking that this phone, yes, has its own frequency and distorts ours, but I think we're going to a transition. I don't know, that's some idea that just came into my mind, that we're going through a stage, especially for young people, that they don't know what's true and what's not true on the social media and the phone, because what you see is not what you get. You don't know if what they're telling is the person talking, or it's the AI talking, or it's they don't know right now what's real. So with that difficulty and challenge, eventually it can bring us to be more trustful to our inner intuition and connect to our soul even more, because the outside is distorting everything we're seeing, so we need to trust to something. So it will, I don't know, it just came to me that it will just turn to our inner self is what I feel, what I believe, that's what I trust, and I don't trust anything else. Do you feel like that? Because I get
I
to
agree. I think the young people are generally of a higher vibration. Many of them, what they are called crystal children, which means that they're very high vibration when they start. And I've got two sons that I know have never lived before on the earth, so they don't have any karma. So they have all these psychic abilities that took me 53 years to develop. They just have it like you did as a young age. But now I'm helping them understand why they have this. And yeah, so they are looking to understand the truth. They are so open-minded, and they are actually quite disillusioned with the world where they see an obsession with money. They see inequality, racism, and they don't get it. They don't get it. I mean, they've got friends who are from all different nationalities, and they don't feel this racism, yet they see it on television and they see it around them, and they see the parents running around obsessed by money and working all the time, and they don't see that it makes any sense to them. So I just find that they are the ones most craving. A lot of older people in our sort of generation, they've had their life, they've done their stuff. They're not looking to necessarily learn. They're looking to retire and just go off and enjoy what they've earned. But the younger people are craving. They've still got a life ahead of them. They've still got relationships to live. They've still got leadership that they don't, they go into businesses and they see leaders who treat them with disrespect, and they don't understand why can't they lead me with love. We have this opportunity with this younger generation who are so open to a more loving way of life.
So you're bringing to me a confirmation that I have always say, and what I always said is that I trust in the younger generation, because there is the shift comes in the next generation. It's like, the world is a complete disaster and disorder. And I said, yeah, I trust the young that will see through and will bring it back, because the leaders are cycling also. No, it's the age of the hippies and whatever that, it was advanced for that time, but they were the young that were fighting the establishment to bring a more human world, and then it came back again, swallowed by the establishment, and then it's coming back, and now the young people are just like, hello, it will come, somebody will be a leader, then really see it through and come back to humanity, right? Because it's like Einstein that you mentioned before, that he used to ask, are you living, the first question he used to ask was, are you living in a loving world, or are you living in a hostile world? So, because if you think you're living in a loving world, so you're living in a loving world. If you're living in a hostile world, you are experiencing a hostile world, because it will always convince you that you're right. So in what world you're living, right? So yes, I'm very happy to hear that the younger generations are very open to that. I'm just coming back. I'm in this world of opening minds and hearts like 8 years, because before I was working in security, selling doors and padlocks and vests and guns and whatever. So I was in the closing and protecting world for people to feel safe. And the universe took me everything out and brought me back to my core, that I studied behavioral sciences. That's why I came back to my path, to open minds and hearts for people to feel safe. It's the same thing. Both sides of the same coin. One is protecting, the other one is trusting and loving. Is the two worlds, the hostile world and the loving world.
The human ego has a natural role to protect and project us, projects our image and protects us. But, you know, there is a bigger, much bigger, broader game here, if you allow me to go a little bit deeper, because the universe is basically increasing the light energy on the earth, because basically it's time for the earth to move to a higher consciousness, not just the humans on the planet, but the planet itself, which is a conscious being. So the energy on the earth projected through the light, through the sun, is lifting the vibration of the earth. And it's no coincidence that these younger people are being born now and seeded onto the planet who have a higher vibration that is more in alignment with that higher light. The older people who are more conditioned, as they kind of pass on, the world is renewing itself through the younger generation. So it's important that they understand that their role is to live more from love. And they want to. I found they want to. They're not, they're all different, but most of them want to live from love. And
those that live in the loving world, because there are some other young people that are being raised in the hostile world, and they are in there, but they're moving. No, they're moving. I think the good. I try to say that the good people are more than the bad people that in the world. So they're more quiet, but it's coming.
Yeah, that it's coming. And, you know, I've had probably, I don't know, let's say 50 to 100 conversations with beings from other parts of the universe, from other parts of the galaxies through these channels. And they are much higher vibration, much higher light than human beings, because the earth is a place that's always historically been used as a testing ground for people to come here and challenge themselves to live in a place of density. Well, a lot of these other galaxies, we think of aliens as beings with little green men and flying around spaceships. A lot of them are just pure light. They don't even have bodies. And so they are completely loving, completely high vibration. And, you know, a lot of the young people coming onto the planet are of that essence. And so the future is, well, it's already predetermined.
Yeah.
We're heading into a much higher vibration over the next 1,000 years. That is going to happen. So already happened.
Well, it's an amazing conversation. I think everybody has a lot to learn. And if you want to give one advice to the people that are listening, what would you say?
I would say, understand there's much more to you than anyone ever taught you. How could they know? The only thing that truly knows your depth of who you are is inside you, and that's your soul. We call it the heart, but it's the soul. And the more you connect to that, and the more you discard and stop thinking what you think you know what you are, and let your soul show you what you're not, and then it will show you what you are. But it takes work. And when I say work, it takes inner feeling, inner work, not, you know, it's practice. It's just practice. That's all.
Beautiful, beautiful. So thank you very much, Mark, for sharing your heart, your journey, your experience, your wisdom, your books. That if anybody wants to buy his books, you can look for Mark Worthington. He just presented a couple of them, from Pain to Possibility, The Truth About Love, some of them, and this conversation has been like a powerful reminder that allowing yourself isn't in one decision. It's a daily practice to allow yourself with courage, with grace, with self-trust, to listen, to open your heart, to listen to your soul. And for everyone that is listening, may you give yourself permission to take more space, to rest, to meditate, to begin again, and really to become, as Mark said, what you are meant to be in the 3 stages that Mark said: the understanding, knowing, and becoming. And Thank you very much, Mark. In one word, what are you taking from our conversation today?
Joy that people like you are out there to also spread the word.
Joy. Beautiful. Everything is about joy. I love that. Joy is the key, really. For me, también.
And
Also, joy is the key.
turn pain into possibility, I always say.
So thank you very much, Mark, and thank you all for listening, and see you next time.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.